We've got to talk about the Bombshell interview with David Grusch on Tucker Carlson. David Grusch talked, among other things, about how the UFO control group assassinates whistleblowers. So this is huge. Let's talk about it. Get in here. This is Jack with Cosmic Road. I talk about UFOs and the paranormal. Please hit like and subscribe and let me know what you think in the comments below. Okay, let's hear David Grusch, the man himself, talk about skullduggery and violence perpetrated by the UFO control group.
It cannot be classified because it is illegal. But do you have any reason to believe that the U.S. government has hurt or killed anybody connected to these programs, American citizens?
There were concerns, like I stated during the hearing, of people that have espoused that to me. And of course, I brought some of those officers to the Inspector General, the Intelligence Community Inspector General, because I'm like, this is serious. And I'm like, here's the law enforcement people you want to talk to, because I'm hands off. If that's true, you need to look into it. But
the allegation was murder?
Yes, and then physical harm. And I will say, well, I won't get into the specifics because it's part of my open investigation, besides the administrative stuff. And I don't know, it's an unknown entity to me. I do not know who did this, but their displeasure in me was made known in my personal life, and it, it affected my wife and I had to report that to a certain counterintelligence element and a certain law enforcement element, because right before I filed my whistleblower complaint, I felt that my life was in jeopardy, and that's what I was alluding to during the hearing, because, we'll just say when you come home and you see something, you made somebody unhappy. And to this day, I don't know who it was. I don't think it was a foreign entity, but there was some element that I extremely angered. And I don't say that flippantly. I say that very seriously, because I thought my life was in danger.
You can't get into details because it's part of the investigation.
It's part of the investigation. At some point, I'm happy to talk about it publicly. And also, as they say in the intelligence business, you don't acknowledge your tail. So I don't want to acknowledge some other things I've noticed that maybe,
but it sounds like
supposed to be known.
You believe you've been surveilled and threatened.
Oh, 100%. It was obvious to me. And, it was blatant, we'll just say, what I observed. And it was so concerning, I ended up reporting it to the authorities. And
so there you go. David Grusch seems like he felt physically threatened by the men in black, by the control group, whoever they are. I've heard that his house was broken into, and he says that when I came home, something. So that may be what he's referring to. Of course, we don't have all the details about his house being broken into. What did they do when they were in his house? Was it just a message? Did they do something specific, regarding his house and his property? My mind goes to dark places there, to scare him, to intimidate him. We don't know. But later in the interview, just not long after that, he does say, he talks a little bit more about how people in his orbit that he was talking to during this investigation were afraid of being murdered and assassinated by the control group. And his direct quote is, people were paralyzed in fear because that's a reality. And he's not talking hypothetically here. He says, because that's a reality, that people do get murdered to keep this stuff silent. He doesn't tell us who is doing this. Is this the CIA? Is this, some other entity? We don't know. We don't know, and he's not saying. I probably can't say. But that's huge. So not only is that a reality that people are being murdered to keep the UFO secret, but he himself was physically intimidated. And so that is, we had heard about his bureaucratic terrorism, and he alludes to that here, but it seems like there was a lot more there that was of more concern. So hopefully we'll get more details on that. Hopefully we'll get more details. We'll see. We'll see. But he does have some other things to say. So let's talk about that. Grusch hints that there were other UFOs the U.S. retrieved between 1933, when the Mussolini UFO crashed, in 44 or 45, when the U.S. retrieved it. And he hints that we may have even had retrievals before 33. So, but he won't give any specifics, and he's not saying that's concrete. He just generally alludes to it. So that which dovetails with the timeline that I've seen in my own research. And then let me know what you think, from your own research. But from my own research, it appears that the Men in Black, the control group, the cover up, whatever it is, began at least in the early 1900s, if not the late 1800s. So, so that is really interesting. He also confirms that Lou Elizondo worked with Arrow, and indeed that Grusch had access to the Arrow files and the OSAP files. So Lou is legit. Grusch had heard about Lou Elizondo before getting into all of this, and he thought he was kind of crazy, challenging the powers that be over this kind of stuff. And, Grusch wasn't a believer at that time. But later he found out that, he saw the news pieces by Leslie Kean and etc. From the New York Times and all that came out, and he was very intrigued. And later, of course, he investigated and he was given access to the Arrow files. So very interesting, very interesting. I'd love to know what he saw. What is in the Arrow and OSAP files? And if he did have access to the OSAP files, what did he have on Skinwalker Ranch? Because he kind of poo-poos Skinwalker Ranch in this, as he has before, saying, really that was all about setting something up so that that team could then get the Lockheed Martin UFO and study that. And they were really trying to set themselves up to do that. And I don't doubt that that's true. However, there's obviously a lot more that went on there that's deeper than simply studying a UFO. I mean, James Lukatsky had a very profound experience on the ranch that propelled the investigation of the ranch and the creation of OSAP and Bass. So so I hear what he's saying, but I do think that he is trying to put a more of a mainstream face on it. And I get it, and he's probably not into the deeper, weirder stuff that happens at Skinwalker Ranch, which makes again me very curious what he may have seen in the OSAP files. Did he go there? What did they say? I'd love to know. He says he went public for his own protection. That was one of the main reasons why David Grusch went public, he says, which is, of course, why Bob Lazar has also stated that he went public. Better in the limelight than in the shadows, anonymously. So he also alludes to contact between the control group and ETs or NHIs. So that is very intriguing. Tucker brings up the idea of historical contact. The idea that, cultures throughout history may have been interacting with the phenomenon. And David Grusch doesn't say no. So, I don't know what he knows about that, if anything. Obviously, the first thing that comes to my mind is the Nazca mummies. But, clearly there's been a long-standing interaction, probably from many varied, types of non-humans throughout history. And I would love to know what Grusch knows about that, if anything. Certainly would love to know what the control group knows about it, and what the real truth of any of that is. Will we get Grusch to talk about the Nazca mummies? We'll see. But there you go. David Grusch is saying that the UFO control group takes people out, which is something that we've heard over and over again. But here, David Grusch is cementing that, and even going a step further, saying that he was himself, he felt physically threatened by the knowledge that he had that they may try to silence him. So there you go, guys. Have you seen the interview? I'll link to the full interview in the comments below. Oh, and I know some of you have a dislike of Tucker Carlson, and that's fine. But let's try to restrict our comments to the David Grusch information, and not the host. So okay, love you guys. Have a great day. If you've enjoyed this video, please give me a big thumbs up. I sure appreciate it. Smash the subscribe button and the bell to be notified of future videos. If you wanted to support Cosmic Road in a bigger way, please consider becoming a channel member. Channel members are rock stars. I really appreciate you guys' support. Also, channel members get to see videos hours or even a day or more ahead of everybody else. So get in on that now. First link in the description below. You can also buy a coffee mug or a t-shirt. See the merch store below. Meanwhile, there's plenty of other videos to check out on the channel, and I'll see you guys next time. This is Jack with Cosmic Road signing out.